Major Spoilers podcast covers news, reviews, and of course, spoilers, and goes into details about the topics discussed. So if you haven't read, listened, or watched the items we talk about, you might want to come back later.
Welcome everybody to the Major Spoilers podcast. Thank you for checking us out this week. We are in the middle of a general topic show, so if you want the first part of the conversation, head over to the Major Spoilers Patreon page, patreon.com/Major Spoilers. $5 will get you a full month of silver level membership, which will get you access to the Major Spoilers podcast pre-show, where we talk about such things as Palm Springs, time loop movies, Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy, and a whole lot more. Where were we last week? Why didn't we do a show last week? Well, I apologize, but I'd forgotten that last Tuesday, my oldest son had to have his wisdom teeth removed. And I keep forgetting every time I have to take care of people who've had their teeth yanked, what an ordeal it is for the caregiver, right? So the most recent one was when my youngest son had like 15 of his baby teeth yanked because the adult teeth weren't pushing through. And so we had to have all those yanked a couple of years ago. And then before that, I was taking care of Rodrigo when he had his wisdom teeth removed. And it's just a whole thing where you're just constantly kind of babysitting, making sure the person doesn't choke on their blood, changing out the gauze pads, making, pain care is managed correctly. Somebody doesn't overdose on their oxys or something like that. And so I thought that this kid kind of bounces back from most things pretty quickly. And I figured, this will be fine. No, we had the operation at 8 a.m. and by, 10 or whatever, I was like, oh no, this kid is not going to be well by the afternoon.
I think that this whole like outpatient procedure deal is like another symptom of how bad healthcare is in the United States. They're like, well, nobody's going to want to sit in and be observed after like a wisdom teeth removal or a laparoscopic surgery. So let them out. It's like, you can go back to work tomorrow. Like, I definitely didn't when I had my wisdom teeth out, and I definitely did. Well, okay. I didn't when I had my gallbladder taken out. Technically, I did go to work because the thing that Steven neglected to say is that he picked me up and we did a show. Well, like immediately after my surgery. I'm very thankful to him for picking me up, and I had fun doing the show. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was good times. It actually, a lot of people have a tough time or a slow time recovering from surgery.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I talk to a provider and then when I talk to other people, that generally there is this kind of like, no, you can go back to work. You can go back home or whatever. And it's like, for a lot of people, you kind of can't.
Yeah. I think everybody responds differently to the pain because now I don't think he should have, but the minute that I was released, my wife comes home, I'm like, I'm done with nurse duties. I'm going to let the real nurse take over from now. He went out at like 10 o'clock at night to go play softball with his friends, which I thought was a mistake. And sure enough, the next morning at 3 a.m., he's like, Dad, my gums are still bleeding. I'm like, oh, and but he's doing much, much better now, finally starting to transition to more solid foods. But I thought for people that aren't over on our Discord, we do an impromptu top 5 for everyone. Top 5 things that were said while my son was coming out of his sedation. Number 5, Dad, you were right. That was the first and only time that he has ever said that. It was, I was telling him, hey, here's the process. They're going to give you this thing. They're going to tell you to count backwards. And the next thing you know, you're going to be waking up and a whole bunch of time is going to be passed. And he didn't believe me. And sure enough, that was the first thing he said. Number 4, give me the phone. I got to take a picture like my friend took when he had his teeth taken out. And I was real hesitant about that. But finally, I was like, it's your life. And so I gave him the phone. And so he did the, cotton puffy face picture with all of his friends. Those were somewhat hysterical.
That's cute.
Number 3, whoa, that was only 30 minutes? Whoa. For those that are currently listening to Monster Wrangler, my character Samuel plays a Gen Alpha. My oldest son is definitely not a Gen Alpha, but I was telling him things that he should be aware of. And the first thing out of his mouth was bet, which is definitely a Gen Alpha slang for yes. And I was like, did you just say bet to me? And he's like, bruh. And I was like, did you just say bruh to me? So yeah, he was a little embarrassed by that. On the way home, as I was cautioning him about the use of oxycodone, or Oxycontin, I forget which one it is, probably Oxycontin. He asked me, number one, how much do you think I can make if I sell these oxys to a tweaker?
Probably $20.
I said $20 a pill. I said probably $30 a pill.
Yeah.
Depends on what you want to do with them. And then I said, don't sell your drugs to tweakers. And he's like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's illegal.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah, there's that. Follow up from a previous show. Rodrigo challenged me to ask my youngest son if he knew anything about peanuts. And surprisingly, he knew a lot about the peanuts.
Oh.
So the question was, are the peanuts relevant for today's audiences? And I guess the answer is yes. He knows them from merchandise. He knows them from the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. He knows them from the Snoopy cartoon that was on Apple Plus a few years ago. Not really familiar with the comic strips, but he is familiar with Peanuts.
With
so
the property,
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which got me thinking, speaking of both Gen Alpha and relevance, which of the following films are still relevant to new audiences, meaning Gen Alphas, which are like the 14-year-olds and under kind of thing? Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Terminator, or The Blues Brothers? Which are ones that a Gen Alpha could watch and understand and possibly like?
I feel like Terminator has enough sequels, enough recent sequels, because I want to say the last Terminator movie came out like 5 years ago.
That sounds right. It's probably 20, but 5 sounds right.
Yeah. I think that the Blues Brothers is one of those. It's like a cult film now. When Steven and I were in college, the thing to do was, hey, you can go and you can rent like Reefer Madness and watch it. And sometimes we would go and we would watch Reefer Madness and go, this is what crazy stuff people got up to in Hollywood 30 years ago. And I really feel like that's all the Blues Brothers really is now. It's a collection of here's some crazy stories and then some, fun bits of dialogue.
So Blues Brothers not relevant for today's audience.
No, I don't think Ferris Bueller is either. I think Ferris Bueller is
either.
Yeah, Ferris is. I always try to put it in the context of my time. So in 1990, you and I are in college. There's a film called Bye Bye Birdie, which I think came out in like 62 or 63, which is kind of a similar story, not necessarily similar narratively, but it's the story of a teenager who's like finding his way in the world. He's doing his whole thing. There's a whole running gag about this crazy Elvis guy who totally is not Barack Obama, no matter what Seth MacFarlane tells you. But I feel like Ferris Bueller to today's kids is like Bye Bye Birdie was to us. It's something where we can look at it and go, wow, look at the crazy pants and all of the strange dialogue and the things that people thought were cool before we were born.
Rodrigo, what about you?
All right, here's my ranking from most relevant to least relevant.
Okay.
Most relevant, Terminator. I think I can absolutely get behind AI going crazy, coming back to the past and killing someone.
In fact,
to stop someone from being born.
I believe the Terminator movie opens with, it is the year 2025.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah,
so
2025, 2021.
And it's a hellscape.
Yeah.
And so kids are like, yeah,
makes sense. We're there.
We'll get back to that. Number 2, Blues Brothers. For no other reason that the Blues Brothers are musicians and criminals, right? Like, it's really not a very accessible movie. So the pacing they might not like or whatever. That's kind of true for all of these. Although I think the first Terminator has like modern action cinema pacing. So
it does.
It's like the same language. Blues Brothers doesn't. Blues Brothers has like weird comedy pacing, which is totally fun, but they might not be into. But I think that this idea of these two like iconoclast weirdos like going against the grain and screwing everybody up and having a giant pileup of cars they might be into. And lastly, the one that I think they would be the least into is Ferris Bueller. Like Ferris Bueller is, I feel like a quintessential Gen X movie. Like it is about having this this oppressive setup, like the system that already exists, and being able to like push through it, bring your friends along, and having like a good time, despite the fact that everybody's always telling you what to do. That is not the reality that these kids in. These kids are like, please, any setup, like any structure, please, anybody, and like nobody will give it to them. They are on their own. They're just floating out there. So I think if they saw somebody like Ferris Bueller, they'd be like, dude, that guy lives in an awesome house. Like, what's he complaining about? Like, look at all the stuff he has. His friend has like a cool car. Like, I don't know what this guy's problem is. I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm not a kid, but that's how I think they would perceive it.
I think I'm on the same track as you, although if we're just looking at the still relevant, I think the only one that is still relevant is Terminator, and I just looked. It starts in the year 2029, so we're just a few years away from the rise of the machines. I just don't think Ferris Bueller and Blues Brothers that young audiences can relate to it, because in both situations you've got the characters fighting against the machine, and in both cases it's stuff that I don't think these kids have to deal with today, right? Ooh, the principal's mean to me and I just want to have a day off. Or, hey, we've got to go save the orphanage. And I don't think either one of those things are things that they can easily attach to. And especially in the case of the Blues Brothers, I don't think the music is of interest to that generation.
Maybe. The thing is, though, is that I haven't sat down to look at the soundtrack, but music now involves so many samples. Like, what if they do, right? Like, what if there's like a couple random Blues Brothers songs, because the songs of Blues Brothers weren't original to Blues Brothers either. They're actually old-ass songs already. Well, some of them were, but a lot of them were old songs. And what if some of that stuff got sampled and now they're like, oh, this is like that Dua Lipa song where it plays like 0.7 seconds of the song, but I relate to that because I know it.
I'm sure they probably all know like what is it? Yellow. Oh yeah. They know that song because that one gets sampled a lot. Oh yeah. And then I think probably
right. Yeah, they hear that a lot.
Probably on the Blues Brothers side, I'm trying to think if there is a song that jumps out that would be something that they would recognize instantly as a sample song. I think maybe
Give Me Some Lovin'.
Maybe. Yeah, or maybe something James Brown-ish. I don't remember.
James Brown doesn't sing anything James Brown-ish in there, though. He sings kind of a gospel number.
I mean, we can't get away from Respect. They're still playing Respect.
Right.
So they would know that.
Yeah.
Jailhouse Rock also gets played a lot here and there, I think, just in stuff. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like sampled the Perry Mason theme at some point, or whatever else is in there.
Yeah, Peter Gunn.
Yeah.
Theme from the television show Rawhide.
Apparently, the person who did the Peter Gunn theme song just passed away just recently, like within the last week or so.
That was the surf guitarist guy. God, what was his name?
He did a bunch of other film and television stuff, but I believe it was it's the Mission Impossible song, not Peter Gunn. The Mission Impossible song. Yeah. Okay. That answers that. Unpopular opinion that I shared this week on Blue Sky. The Terminator is a better movie than The Terminator 2.
Ooh. Spicy take.
I think it is. So here's the thing.
Movie?
Just a better movie, top to bottom, better movie, far superior than Terminator 2.
No, wrong.
No, absolutely. Terminator is, hey, here's this concept with some original-ish ideas, and we're going to put them together in a nonstop action sequence about kind of a horror sci-fi about this nonstop killing machine that wants to change the future by changing the past, right? And so you get just these amazing special effects for the time, 1982. You get these amazing, action sequences. But then you get to Terminator 2, and it's like, hey, remember how cool it was when Arnold Schwarzenegger showed up and he was like, your clothes, give them to me. Yeah, we got to put that in. Remember when the Terminator drove a truck, a semi-truck, and chased down the heroes? Yeah, we got to put that in there again. Oh, remember when this, it is just like, let's take the best parts of Terminator and put them into Terminator 2. And I just can't get behind that. Yes, it's got a bigger production value. Everything looks slick, but it is just a rehash of the first movie.
You want to hear perhaps another spicy take based on that?
Go for it.
Terminator 2 is Terminator Special Edition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Back before George Lucas did it, James Cameron did it first. He was like, I want to do, now that we have a budget, I want to do all of the things that we did in Terminator, but I want to do them glossier and with the morphing effect or whatever.
And I've talked about that before. There's something about, and it's literally the film stock, but there's something about those movies like Star Wars.
That grit.
It's got the grit to it, right? It's got this grittiness, rawness to it. So if you watch the original Star Wars or if you watch Terminator, they have this rawness to them. But then when you watch Empire Strikes Back or you watch Terminator 2, suddenly everything's got this glossy sheen to it. And it's just something that aesthetically, I don't like. Some people really get a kick out of it. But yeah, a lot of people on Blue Sky were like, well, I appreciate your take, but I don't agree with you. And then they wouldn't say why I was wrong. So Matthew, here's your chance to say why.
It's like at least on Twitter, people had the decency of calling you something disgusting and then tell you why they disagreed with you.
See, I think that the when you say it's a better film, I feel like that is where people are getting hung up. It's not necessarily a question of whether the opinion is, definitionally or objectively right or wrong. And I definitely think that all your arguments do make sense. I think, though, when people think about Terminator 2, they think about the enjoyment of the process itself. And, part of that is, especially among Generation Xers, we have a really, really high tolerance for just lying to ourselves about how great things used to be. But more importantly, Terminator 2 is very much like Terminator with bigger and flashier and crazier moments. And of course, it has the kid from Hey Dude with his hair slicked up like we always wanted to have it. And, it has the cool racing and the moments where, hey, ask how the dog is. How's Wolfie? Your mother is dead. There are a lot of moments in that film that really land for people, partly because of, we've talked about the theory of, is this a really good movie or did it just come out when you were 12? I think there's a little bit of that generationally. Is Terminator 2 a better movie or did it just come out when Gen X was metaphorically 12? Now, I will say this. I feel that from a construction, it's just breaking down the actual film itself and saying, as someone looking at this as an overall film experience, I like Terminator better, but I feel like Terminator 2 is better constructed. I feel like it's shot and assembled in a better manner. I feel like there are fewer moments in Terminator 2 where I go, wait, okay, now I have to, oh, right, that's what just happened. Plus, Linda Hamilton, all buffed up. So yeah, I think that what is a better film is a good question to ask yourself. And then at that
Terminator.
Point, you could spend,
the answer is Terminator.
Yeah, you can spend like 20 years sitting on a mountain like Socrates.
Terminator, it's interesting because the first Terminator came out in 80?
I want to say 84. 84,
and
85.
the second Terminator came out in the 90s, like 90,
95.
91.
91. Yeah.
Okay. Like, right now, off the top of my head, I struggle to think of a better franchise that embodies the change between the 1980s into the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Like, yeah, right. It's like Terminator has that grit. It has that like
that
like
desperation of
that, like
1985.
pulsing, like desperation. Yeah, like stress, whatever. Like Terminator 2 is much more spectacle, and there's like a lot more stuff going on. It's like there's literally a kid and his dog, except that his dog is a robot.
Yeah,
right.
Like that. Like it's like between those two was the Little Mermaid, and in the second one, Arnold is Flounder, probably Sebastian.
Yeah,
because he's more useful than Flounder.
It's interesting because you mentioned that, and I immediately think of Times Square, the reputation of Times Square circa 1984 as this kind of filthy, dirty place where bad things happen and terrible people are probably waiting to stab you. And by the mid-90s, all of a sudden it was this place where you go to see the big billboards and where you go and, hey, look at all these cool things in these buildings. And this is all now part of a cleaner New York, a New York. It's a whole setup where everything is designed to be more hospitable.
An attraction to make money.
But it's but it still has that undercurrent of filth. They've just hidden it really well, and it's a valid point because in the 80s we were all waiting for catastrophe to fall on our heads, literally.
I'm like, this would make a great video essay. It's too bad that I am allergic to research.
Oh man, you don't want to be the next Patrick H. Willems.
I would love to be the next Patrick H. Willems and get on the ground floor of something like Nebula that's actually making him money. But I am not because I'm allergic to research. Here's another take. I'm just like, pow, 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 pow. YouTube has brought about a class of not necessarily great video essayists, although many of them are, but of charismatic researchers.
Yes.
If you are a charismatic researcher, you can find your niche on YouTube and do pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
If you are just charismatic or you are just a researcher, you're not going to make it.
Yeah. No, that's why I think now I didn't put a whole lot of research time. I knew which direction I wanted to go and where to find the facts to back it up. But the essay podcasts that we've done here on Major Spoilers have been very, very well received because they are going back in and they've got the production value and they've got the research to back up the claims. You're right that if you can find a good niche to go off of, you can do very well, providing that you're doing it. I guess the word I'm looking for, the best word I'm looking for is honestly.
Ethically?
Ethically implies that you're not doing your research or you're doing the research to back up your claims. I guess what I'm looking at is a certain fan of the Space Wars franchise who so many people today want to use their essay videos as platforms for hate and anger and divisiveness because they know that is going to be the trigger that then gets them the hits and the monies. So it's all a grift. I talk a lot about this, ladies and gentlemen who are listening. If you are a patron at the gold level or higher, I just released a new VIP chat titled I Wish I Weren't So Honest, where I talk about the ethics of people when they say why they're doing the thing that they're doing, right? It spun off of somebody who made the comment in one of their videos that was like, hey, I understand. We're just here to shill for the companies. And it's like, no, you're not. So go listen to that over at the Patreon. But, if you go into it being honest with good research and you go into it with the notion that you're not doing it as a clickbait way to make a fast buck, then I think you will be the next Patrick H. Sorry there, ladies and gentlemen, I crapped out really quick. We were talking about Patrick H. Willems and we were comparing him to where he was 10, 12 years ago when he was just out of college and he was doing What If Darjeeling Limited Grand Budapest Hotel shot the X-Men?
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. That's who we were thinking of. And then if you look at the evolution of his stuff, he evolved pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And finding his niche.
So it's interesting that you bring up the those like bastards that are like basically
hate mongers,
like militarizing and radicalizing like people like against the like women.
Just anybody. Just they're negative people in general. But yes, women tend to be their main target.
So everybody who is like in the YouTube sphere and arguably in any sort of media is looking for that niche that they can find where like people will start paying attention to them, right? And so people just start doing more of that. It's very few people who sort of get a huge hit to begin with and then can then go on to do whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
Like most people have to struggle to find that niche and then they have to basically stay within that niche as time goes on. So it's the same thing. It's just, and I'm sure as big comic book readers, you will feel this. You have to use your powers for good, right?
Always.
Like if you are, again, a charismatic person that gets any sort of platform, you have to look at what is, the like literally the ethics of what you're doing, right? What is your responsibility to your audience? And some people don't care and don't have a responsibility to their audience or don't feel the responsibility to their audience. And so when they in some video complain about something that the culture war cares about, and they get like an innocuous comment, but they get like 50,000 more views.
Yeah.
Like that is a door that is opening.
Yes.
And like a lot of people don't care about the consequences of walking through that door.
Yeah. And there's two things. One of them you touched on, and I go a little bit more into this on the live chat, but I don't want to give too much away because that's for our gold level patrons. But you did say that care about their audience, right? So one of the things that I've noticed about, I'll just put in quotes, these people, are that they don't care about the audience, or they see the audience as, what is the audience here to do for me, as opposed to what am I here to do for the audience? I think that's the first trigger warning that people should know when they see people are acting like that. And the second thing is they see one person do it and have a lot of success in the culture war. And they're like, oh, well, I will do that as well, but I will take it up to 11. And then that person will have short-term success, but then somebody else will come along and say, but I will take it up to 12. And the next person will come along and say, well, I'm going to dress up as Hitler through the entire thing. And
the Overton window is moved.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just like, and I don't like that. I think it's not, and I've talked about this before, it's not good for your soul to go about that. So yeah, I don't know how we got on this topic, but there you go.
I think that there is an argument to be made that maybe if you can engage in that kind of chicanery, maybe you don't have one, or at the very least, it's rotten and to the core.
So
you're like Mr. Grinch.
So I think what you're saying is, maybe you shouldn't be doing it if you don't have a good argument. Is that what you're saying?
I think what I'm saying is
he's saying they don't. He was saying they don't have a soul to
right.
rot.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Right.
But
they're a triple decker salad.
Well, it is a two-way street there, because yes, they may not have a soul, but they have an audience that's feeding their hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a great bit by the Vlog Brothers.
It's a recursive loop.
Yeah, there's a great bit by the Vlog Brothers this week, where they're basically, am I a cigarette? And they're talking about the creator community on YouTube. in that, and really it's something that I even talk to my students about in my intro to electronic media, but I just like how they pitch it with, am I a cigarette, in that cigarettes are addicting. Social media is addicting. And we are not, in the Vlogbrothers state, you're not starved for content. You're starved for connection, I believe is how they summarized it, in that, yes, there's plenty of, calorie fulfilling food out there, but it's not all good for you. And the same way with people on YouTube is that there's plenty of stuff out there. A lot of it is probably not good for you, but because you are addicted to it, you keep coming back to the same thing again and again and again and again. And that only feeds the fuel. And he, which is the one that just had cancer. I forget.
John.
No, it wasn't. It's the other one.
Hank.
Yeah. No, Hank is the author. John is.
They're both authors. Oh, no, John is the one that did Turtles All the Way Down.
Okay, so it is Hank then.
Hank is
yeah. So
Hank is the skinnier one.
Yes. He describes it as a Dorito, right? Where if you just eat a Dorito, it's serving one purpose and it's not going to be acceptable by everybody. But the Doritos that are made today through these content creators is, and the YouTube and the algorithms, is that the Dorito evolves. So if you start to feed on it, it's going to feed on you and adapt to your individualism until you're all consumed by it. So it's a two-way street. If you're creating evil content, you will attract evil people, which will make you want to create more evil content, which will attract more evil people, which will make you want to create more evil content. And then we're ending up where we are today, outside the window.
Part of the problem, though, is that the algorithm favors evil content.
Yeah,
it's not right, because again, we've had this conversation before. Like, my dad is like the sweetest person in the world. He's like a super cool guy. He just wants to learn about like ancient ruins, and then that leads him to like, were giants real? And then that leads him to like flat earthers, and then that leads him to QAnon, right? And it's like, it does that. It just naturally does that. And it's terrible, because although it will recommend other things that are not that, like, you guys know me, like Stephen, Matthew, you know me. You know I'm about as far to the left as anybody
AOC
can reasonably be, without
becoming Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, without transforming into Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
It does that to
on
me.
The inside. Secretly on the inside, there's an old Jewish man piloting Rodrigo.
I am here once again to ask you to no, but it does that to me. It like constantly, and I'm so hyper aware of it that the moment I see it pop up, I'm like, do not recommend me this channel. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, every once in a while, it gets me, because like, here's a short. When you look at the shorts on your page, they actually don't tell you what channel they're from.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So I'm like, this looks fun, or this looks interesting, or I do want to know about this thing that's going on in Congress, and I play it, and it's like some awful stuff, right? Or some stuff that is a lie or whatever. And I'm like, I'm like,
they got
like
me.
I've been curating this algorithm for so long.
Yeah,
now I'm gonna have to like go in and like do surgery at it.
A couple of years ago, this happened to me, where it was like, oh, here's this episode of the Beverly Hillbillies. And I was like, oh, this is the pilot episode of the Beverly Hillbillies. Great. I will watch this entire episode of the pilot of the Beverly Hillbillies because it's fun and it's some nostalgia factor, etc. And so I'm watching that whole thing. And then it was like, would you like to watch an episode of The Addams Family? Yeah, sure. Why not? I'll watch an episode of The Addams Family. And I'm watching the entire episode of The Addams Family. And then all of a sudden my timeline is like preppers and Second Amendment people and all this other stuff. I'm like, how did this happen? And I went back and I looked, and this channel, which is all about, crazy end of days prepper religious, God is going to swing the axe and only you can be saved with this 32 millimeter gun. They had posted these up there as bait to draw you in, to get the algorithm to switch so it would feed you their other nonsense on their channel. And I was like, oh, son of a bee.
Yeah.
Got me. And I'm somebody that curates my channels like extremely. If I see something that I don't like, it's just like, nope, do not recommend this channel ever again.
And the thing is, if you are on the side of good, you don't do that. You're not trying to catch people who aren't interested in your stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't tag my videos about Lancer with anything from the culture war, even though Lancer is actually kind of slightly relevant to it because it's a very progressive setting, like very purposefully progressive, or like there's a lot of progressive themes in it. But that's usually not what I'm talking about. I'm like, look at that cool robot kind of shoot all the way over there, right? Like that's what I'm talking about. So I don't tag my stuff with any of that. I don't want to catch somebody coming in who doesn't care about robots or who isn't curious about it or whatever. Like I don't want to trap anybody except for D&D players. So I will put the fact that it's a Lancer video all the way at the end so that D&D players are like, huh, what's this about? It's like, wait a minute, I don't know this game. And then they click off, but by then it's too late.
Too late. I already got your 15 seconds.
I guess I am evil, but only in the role-playing game sphere and only where role-playing games are concerned.
Yes, but you're not in there. You're not in there making videos that say, there you go. I don't know what's going on with this hard drive. All right. Yeah. So stop with the nonsense, people. I guess before we get out of here, because we're having some tech issues, and I don't want to lose a whole show. Well, two more things. Number one, getting back into the My Hero Academia again. Matthew, what is your quirk?
My quirk? I am the memory hero quicksand, where stupid crap gets stuck in my brain and sinks to the bottom, and it's always there. And just at the random point in the middle of a conversation, I could go, Mike Nesmith's mom invented liquid paper.
Okay. Rodrigo, what about you?
My quirk is an extremely unruly beard that defies all product and like hair in general, honestly. Like the hair on my head is also kind of all over the place. My hair was doing this like Ted Danson thing there for a little while. You might have seen pictures on social media where like it was just going straight up. And I think it's just like the humidity was just so, and it just like all went straight up like Kid or Play, whichever one it was.
I think it was Play.
And so does your beard go out and like grab people and stuff? Like,
yeah, I think, if it was like, how do we turn this into like an actually functional superhero? I think it's kind of like a Medusa situation, but also with my beard and mustache kind of a thing. Or alternatively, my beard just detaches itself and it is the superhero because it's so unruly that it doesn't want to bring me along.
And its name is La Barbarian.
Yes, sure.
So
yes,
that's pretty good.
So we started watching My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which is set before the events of My Hero Academia, in the semi-early days of well, at this point, 80% of the world has quirks.
Like state-operated superheroes.
Yeah. There are state-operated superheroes, but here's a group of people that couldn't get into the Hero Academy but are doing their own vigilante thing. But there are also bad guys who are creating drugs that turn people with powers into villains. Like literally, they just become evil. I don't know what this character's name is because I haven't looked her up. I'm going to call her Queen Bee. But Matthew, you should avoid watching My Hero Academia Vigilantes because the main villainess, she has an eye patch, and when she takes off the eye patch, wasps come flying out. That's her. That's her power. She's full of wasps, and they attack you.
I don't.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. When I saw it, I was like, "Holy crap! Are wasps coming out of that woman's eyes?" And my youngest son is just sitting there going laughing, and he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Holy crap! This is no good."
I've read a little Vigilantes, so I know. Basically, I know about Knuckle Duster.
Yeah,
and his basic sham. But yeah,
Yeah. So there is a brand new book club episode that has been released. Brad and I sit down and we talk about All Systems Red, which is the first installment of the Murderbot series, which also happens to be the Apple TV Plus show that is on right now. For the month of July, we are reading Neuromancer, William Gibson's Neuromancer, which I argue has the best opening line of all the books out there that have great opening lines. This is the number one book with the best opening line. And then coincidentally, I stumbled across this show on Netflix called Pantheon. Have you guys watched this at all?
Pantheon, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so have you watched it all the way through?
I saw the first season.
Okay, so this was originally an AMC Originals, and the creator was given 2 seasons to do stuff. So he knew he had to do a self-contained story in 2 seasons. The second season never aired on AMC, but when Netflix bought the show, they also included the second season. So this is about a girl who's lost her father, and one day she's being bullied at school, and then some weird things happen on the social media to these bullies, and she starts getting these emojis at home through an instant message. And the next thing we know is that she realizes she is talking to her dead father, whose brain has been uploaded, and he is a, what are they called? They're not called AIs. They're called uploaded persons, UPs. Is that what they're called? Something like that. And so this whole first season is about her trying to rescue her father from the evil corp. And this conversation that plays out about, should people be able to, they're UIs, uploaded intelligences. Should people be able to upload their intelligence and live indefinitely on a server somewhere? Now, the drawback is, at least in the first season, there is the question of, well, these people agreed to have their minds uploaded, but they didn't agree to become indentured servants, essentially, processing power. Which is what they are. And so
there's a lot of conceits to this, that like basically once you upload a human mind, it's like way faster and more powerful than like any computer.
But it also burns you out faster. So there's this built-in flaw that if you try to compute too fast, you will burn yourself up and you will die for reals. And so the girl and her family and this other guy are trying desperately to solve the problem of keeping him from burning out and dying. And then the second season gets really weird in that 2 UIs merge to create a cloud intelligence, an AI that lives in the cloud and does things. And the public has become aware of this, and people want to be uploaded to the cloud, and they are fine with living. It's really weird because the conceit in season 2 is many people have uploaded themselves to the cloud, which means that there's less demand on resources for the planet. So the planet begins to heal. All of these people, because they can clock themselves at all of these different speeds, they can actually do work that real people don't want to do, and they can do it in a faster amount of time, which means real people have universal basic income and they can do whatever they want, so they don't have to work if they don't want to. And it's this really weird symbiotic relationship until, of course, the Luddites come along and want to blow everything up. And then there's some other really cool things that happen in relation to one of the characters.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that's set up in the first season.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
I'm sure pays off later.
And the ending of this show, I was like, they kind of wrapped it up and they still have 2 episodes to go. The final 2 episodes are like, what if 2001 met Inception, met The Matrix, and, baked it at 450 for 6 hours. It is the most insane. I mean, it follows along with a lot of real concepts that are out there in the world. But if people haven't seen Pantheon, and if you haven't watched season 2 yet, Rodrigo, definitely watch season 2 because it gets really cool.
Okay. I wasn't planning on it because at the end of season 1, they showed me a preview of season 2, and I was kind of like, Oh, season 2 is the sci-fi book that they actually wanted to write. And in my experience, usually that's worse, right?
Right.
It's like how the three body problem person actually wanted to write about collapsing dimensions and like spaceships and stuff.
Yeah.
But they first wrote a like an extremely powerful and interesting book about meeting aliens. And there's actually a lot of examples of stuff like this. So I'm like, I'm okay. I'm just gonna pass on the second one. I'm sure it's fun, but whatever.
No,
But
it gets
since you liked
really
it, I'll
interesting.
put it on.
Yeah.
I'll put it back on my queue.
By the time that I got to those final 2 episodes, it kind of drags in parts because it's like, okay, this is a little bit of a repeat. But the thing is, the creator knew going in that he had 2 seasons, so he knew what he needed to do to tell a complete story in the 2 seasons, and it does it very, very well, I think, in the end. And it really brings up
that makes me more interested if going in they knew that they had 2 seasons because
it wasn't a rush job or anything like that. So that's Pantheon currently on the Netflix, and I think probably with
Did you guys watch Black Mirror season 6? Because there's an episode of Black Mirror that plays with a very similar conceit that came out just this year, and everything you said, I'm just like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you should probably watch. You should watch probably Pantheon.
Yeah, Black Mirror loves like the cookies concept, which is great because Pantheon sort of tries to get around it. I don't feel it actually gets around it, but it says it gets around it, right? But this idea that like if you upload yourself to the cloud, that's just a copy. But in Pantheon, it's like a destructive process.
Yeah, the body is dead.
So technically, it's still just a copy, and the person died. But Pantheon plays it like, no, it's a transference.
Yeah,
right. It's kind of like teleporters in Star Trek, right? If you like think about them, you're like, oh no.
Yeah,
but generally speaking, the show literally tells you, no, it's not that. And then you're like, okay, well, I actually want to enjoy Star Trek, so I'm going to put that out of my mind. And I felt the same way with Pantheon, where I was like, okay, I need to stop thinking about how this thing is actually this, and just like meet the show where it wants to be and make my
I think there's some really interesting concepts about transhumanism, right? That goes on in the story. Also, the whole parallel alternate dimensions multiverse thing that goes on in it, I think is fascinating as well. And just the concept of, and even, going back to what I said earlier about we are reading Neuromancer for July for the book club. There's a character in Neuromancer who uploaded his most recent self to a ROM. Dix is the character, and so every time you boot him up, he is starting right from the last point that he left off. So if you had an hour-long conversation with him, shut him off and then turn him back on again, he wouldn't remember that. So you always have to keep him running in order for him to have persistent memory of what is going on, because nothing gets written back to his self. And there's a little bit of that in Pantheon as well. I didn't think it was going to be an interesting show based on the premise about here are these computer UIs that are acting like gods and want to destroy humanity, and there's kind of a little bit of a Heroes kind of thing going on in there, the TV series.
Right.
But it does pay off. So I would go check it out. I don't want to give too much more away without revealing the whole reveal of season 2, but definitely go check it out. Really quick before we go, big shout outs this week to Clay Carver, who upgraded their pledge to the gold level. Thank you so much, Clay. Also, thanks to John Samick, who became a brand new silver level member. Thank you to you both. You can head over to the Patreon page, get access to the VIP chat titled I Wish I Weren't Honest for gold members. And for John, you get access to the Major Spoilers podcast pre-show that we talked about earlier. And I think because of the tech problems we're having, we're going to cut it off right there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and listening and being a part of the Major Spoilers experience. If you want to be like Clay or John, head over to patreon.com/major spoilers and sign up for one of those memberships. Get access to bonus content, more than you can deal with. Next week on the show, hey, there's a new Superman movie coming. Maybe we'll get around to reviewing and talking about a Superman comic. Why? Because we know that you love comics. We do too. And we will talk with you soon.
If I had the X-ray vision of a Superman, I could save a few bucks and stand around and read through the covers of the comics on the stand. But although every other page would be backwards, I suppose I could still read the evens and the odds. Well, I don't know. Guess I haven't thought this all the way through. Plus, as soon as the comic book store guy knew, they kicked my butt out on the corner. What a major spoiler! What a major spoiler! Think about a better way. If I was hulking green or gray, I could just bust through that brick wall, take their comic books away. But then the little meat would deal with all the tanks and bombs and guns. Have you ever tried to read a series with all that going on? Guess I need to rethink this plan. How would I back and board my comics with such huge hands? Guess I already told ya. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. If I'm Stark Raven rich like a man of iron, I might not be surprised to find that I might actually have the heart cold to follow an entire storyline. But would I really even need to read up on all those escapades? I mean, who needs such distractions when your sister's such a babe? But the downside is such a beast, being shot up in a fun bee in the Middle East with a gang sign throwing soldier. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a major spoiler. Whoa, 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 whoa. What a major spoiler.
This podcast is copyright 2025 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.